Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about this is what happens when you go no contact with an avoidant ex.
You might be learning a lot about attachment styles, and you may gather that your ex is more on the avoidant side of the spectrum. So what do you do?
Yeah, you panic is what you do because you're afraid that that person's never going to reach out. They're never going to, they're going to forget about you. They're going to move on. They were never even bonded to you to begin with. And all the fears that we have.
Now, we do talk about the stages that exes go through. And the first stage is the same for avoidance, and that's relief.
That's right.
When the relief stage ends, then that's when reality hits.
That's right. The hard part is allowing that to happen, because in the beginning, your avoidant ex is okay with the breakup. They often feel this massive sense of relief. They feel like, okay, this needed to happen. We weren't getting along. This was too hard. I wasn't able to give them what they need. Some of the things that we hear. And they just get to this place where they've been agonizing over the breakup for a while. And now they just have to end it. They can't handle it anymore. And they need this pressure gone.
Right. And they get a big sense of relief in that moment. They want to feel the weight of the breakup off of their shoulders and be single without those obligations for a while. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the inverse here, about what if you do reach out to them? What if you don't go no contact? Then you kind of become, I think we use that phrase like used car salesman, where they have set a boundary with you by ending the relationship and you're not respecting their space. So there's that feeling of pressure. There's that feeling of being pushed or trying to convince them. And that's not the dynamic or the mindset that they're in right now.
Yeah, they're not going to feel attracted to you in that moment. You're going to feel like, you know, when somebody comes to your house and tries to sell you something, that's you.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that. Nobody's attracted to that. Come on in.
Yeah.
I was hoping you would come here and try and rip me off.
So you have to allow the dumper's relief to fade, to have that longing, and to have that longing grow. So the longing has room to grow.
Yeah, because eventually that relief stage or phase or feeling goes away and they start to wonder. They start to get curious, right? Because the person that they loved for a long time is no longer chasing. And now they start to think, well, where are you at? What are you doing? Have you moved on? And now you become a mystery.
Right. And you have to stop rewarding the dynamic that's happening. So maybe you are more on the anxious side of the spectrum. And maybe throughout the relationship, you've been labeled the pursuer or the more needy one. And so if they've ended now the relationship, you don't want to perpetuate that dynamic. If you reach out to them, then they have more room to point the finger and say, see, this person is constantly reaching out. They haven't respected the breakup. They don't get it. Versus if you respect their decision, give them that space, then it's harder to keep that dynamic. If you want a different dynamic, you have to be engaging in behaviors that you haven't before. You have to change the behavior.
That's right. Each time that you reach out, it feels like pressure. They don't like seeing the text. They're probably like, oh man, they're still reaching out to me. It's an uncomfortable feeling. Even though you might be like, hey, just wanted to check in on you. It's like, for them, it's like, why are they reaching out? This is too much. Don't they get it? Stop pressuring me.
And silence is the only way that they can really feel safe enough to miss you and really have that space to be curious about you to then miss you.
Yeah. And, you know, it's really tough to allow that silence, but it's what you really want to do. It's tough because you have to respect yourself, but you also have to respect them. Avoidants need way more time than you think. And it's very uncomfortable each and every minute of each and every day.
Yeah. And if you're more on the anxious side of the spectrum, you're wanting immediacy.
Yep.
You're wanting things to change now. You're feeling that separation anxiety. You want to connect with them as soon as possible. And I would even argue those who are secure, who are in a breakup, can still experience that separation anxiety and want to connect with their ex immediately. You know, so this is part of the human experience. It's part of bonding with someone. But their timeline does look different. For somebody who's more avoidant, they are more skilled at suppressing their emotion. They are more skilled at compartmentalizing.
That's
so
right.
after a breakup, that looks like, hey, I'm not going to look at this for a while. And they're better at that than you are probably.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind and respect that.
That's right. And so a lot of you guys mull over reaching out, and you think, if I reach out, I'm going to feel better. Well, you might feel better the second that you send that message, but it's not going to be too many seconds afterwards that you're like, wait, why did I do that? Because you're likely going to find out that they're cold and they're distant, and they're probably either going to ignore your message or be short. And you're going to be like, I shouldn't have broken no contact.
Right.
Because they probably haven't started to feel that loss yet. You know, they haven't started to process the way you have. Now you give them immediate relief that you still want them, and you took away all that mulling and anxiety they may have started to feel.
Yeah.
Right?
So the key takeaway here is that their timeline is not your timeline, and you don't want to rush a process that requires time, that requires them to be able to have that time to self-reflect.
Yep. So what do you have to do? You have to get yourself together in no contact. You have got to really get centered. And I'm telling you guys, you think it's hard to be in no contact. It's going to be much harder if your ex reaches out. So you really have to get to a place where you're really processing the breakup, talking about it, being okay with it, and starting to explore what happened, what went wrong in the relationship.
You have to think about this as kind of like a muscle, right? Emotions, emotional awareness, emotional maturity, all of this is a muscle that can be practiced. And you can practice with the cashier at Starbucks. You can practice this, with the mailman. Is, okay, how do I sense that this person is doing today? And how can I reflect that back to them? How can I make this person in this seemingly minor, insignificant interaction, how can I make this person feel seen? So it does take effort to consciously think about what is happening around you emotionally, what's happening in others emotionally, and responding to that.
Yeah, it's easy to practice with like the cashier and stuff like that. It's much harder when you feel like your life is on the line or the whole relationship is on the line.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to tell you to do is you have to learn to self-soothe, and you've got to learn the skills that we teach you. Obviously, the creative healing course is especially focused on that. So you could check that out, because if you don't put your energy into someplace healthy, you're going to have these obsessive loops about everything that you said wrong, everything that you did wrong, all the mistakes that you made, and you're just going to continue to beat yourself up, which is not going to help you get them back. You got to put your energy on where you want to heal and grow, not what you did wrong. It's okay to reflect. It's good to reflect, but don't beat yourself up. We don't want you to look at no contact as just waiting for them to come back. That's not the way we want you to handle this. We want you to focus on becoming the most confident version of yourself that is capable of maintaining a healthy relationship when they come back.
Exactly. Another thing you want to consider are the power dynamics between you and your ex. So in the beginning of the breakup, it might have seemed like they had a lot of the power, right? They were the one making that unilateral decision on your relationship. They were the ones that called the shots. And so we feel really disempowered in the relationship.
Helpless.
Yeah. And when we continue to reach out, we're continuing to give our energy to our ex and invest in that, instead of thinking, okay, how can I harness this? How can I retain my self-respect here and really retain this energy? And that is in no contact. That's in saying, hey, I'm not going to take my time thinking about what phrase and syntax I'm going to use in a text that I'm going to send to them reaching out. I'm not going to get so creative with excuses to reach out to them. I'm not going to overanalyze their response or lack of response.
Send your ex these 3 simple messages to get them back.
Right. This is a way to be able to regain some semblance of control here and say, okay, I have the power to create some of this distance and to soothe myself and to be okay in this distance.
Yep. The dynamic can shift. It can flip. Once you get to a better place and you really are focused on healing and growing and not, quote unquote, getting them back, right? Obviously, you want them back. We understand, but we're trying to empower you here that you're not feeling like the only thing that's going to bring you happiness is them. So as you're focusing on that, they start to wonder what they did wrong. Have you moved on? Are they going to lose you? And then they start to get separation anxiety. And it's crazy because, I mean, I just put out the video yesterday about the dumper that sent the handwritten letter a year and a half later, right? I mean, and it's like so shocking for you guys, but it's not so shocking for us. Now, that was an odd situation, a handwritten letter like that. And the dumper was talking in present tense, like they were still best friends and priorities. It was really odd. But separation anxiety is going to come later for the dumper. Now, they're going to have some here and there. We're not going to say that they're not going to have separation anxiety at all, and total relief. It's just that you have massive amounts of anxiety and they only have some kind of anxiety because, of course, they made the choice.
Right. And this is not to be confused with whether or not they care, whether or not they love you or have love for you. I know a lot of times we can correlate these things, but as a reminder, as we're going through this video, feelings do change. Now, I think the key takeaway with this point is that you can't negotiate a breakup. This isn't like a bartering or trying to convince them or trying to,
beg, plead,
push them in a direction.
If you give us another chance, I'm going to do this. It doesn't work.
Yeah, you have to think about what you can control, and what you can control is what you are doing for your own life, your own progress. That's something that you do have some control over, what you do or what you don't do for your own situation.
Yeah, because when you give them this space and you're really growing and healing and getting more confident, you become higher value in their mind when you're more of the mystery, when they don't know that they still have you, when they have thought, well, I'm going to lose them for good. And ironically, this can happen to an avoidant like months later out of nowhere. How many avoidants have you said? One day I just woke up and I'll ask them, I'm like, tell me more about that. And they're like, I don't know. I just woke up and I was just devastated. Like the breakup just happened. But it's because you're a mystery now. You're no longer predictable. They no longer know that they have you.
The other piece to that is that you're not just easily accessible at all times, right? When we have like an unwritten contract with someone that's in our lives, we're saying, I'm going to be there for you and you're going to be there for me. If somebody breaks up with you or ends that contract, that's no longer in place in the same way. And that's something that's important to remember here, is that during a breakup, having unbridled access to you isn't the healthiest thing, because it sends that message of, you can treat me however and I'll still be there.
That's right.
And that's when we're talking about maybe a parent-child relationship that's different. That's the kind of unconditional love where it's warranted. But in an adult relationship, there are realistically some conditions to love, right? If somebody is cheating on you or harming you or, being really damaging to you, that is a condition. So just things to consider. And the other piece to it is accessibility. When we're available at all times and easily accessible to our ex, that also sends a signal as to our value and how we value our own time, right? Somebody who doesn't really value their own time, they'll give it freely to anyone. They'll say, yes, okay, I'll spend, 5 hours with you, helping you. I don't know, it's a really tedious activity.
Move.
Helping you move. For example. So we have to be able to value our own time, and we show others that we value our own time by being able to have some boundaries, to be able to say, okay, if you want to be in my life, then there needs to be some reciprocity here. You have to be able to communicate those things, and we have to have an understanding of where we're at. Just being so easily accessible to your ex, as much as you love them and you want to be there for them, is not so healthy for you.
So often at that point, that's when your ex starts to contemplate how are they going to reach out to you. Now, it's not usually, I miss you, can we talk? It's usually, I miss the cat. Some indirect, random message that leaves you confused. They ask you a question that they could easily get from someone else. They ask you about something unimportant or trivial, or they say, hey, I have this unimportant or trivial thing. Did you want this back? And it'll be like socks. You're like, what? Why would they contact me about that old shirt? Well, it's because now they're making a bid to connect to you. So you have to understand that they are going to go through all these experiences and feelings, and your absence tells them that you value yourself and you're not going to reach out to them. You're not going to beg anymore, and they're going to have to do something if they want to turn this around.
Right. And so overall, no contact really is the path that we think is most helpful when dealing with an avoidant ex. We don't want you to be in situations where you are just giving free access to your heart and to your emotions and not protecting yourself here. So overall, we think that no contact for an avoidant ex is one of the healthier routes that you can go down just for your own self-preservation. We don't want an ex to have just this unbridled access to your heart. We want you to be able to protect your heart and really think about how you process that breakup for the path of most healing. With no contact, you are allowing yourself so much more time to focus on you. You are putting the lens back on yourself. You are investing back in yourself. And that's really what we want here. We want growth after that breakup. Because if your relationship is going to have another chance, it's going to be with a new version of you.
That's right. And you're not going to be sabotaging it with all these things that you fantasize about turning the breakup around, when really allowing them to have the process, allowing yourself to have the process. And then when they come back, you try and navigate like adults to see if you can work it out.
Right.
That's the way to go.
Mm-hmm. So stay grounded, do the work, and allow the process to do the process.
Check out the Creative Healing course and the workbooks. They're very helpful, and they keep you focused on something healthy every day, as opposed to stalking and cyber stalking or droning or checking their pet cameras or Ring cameras or Alexa devices. I had that recently.
Stop giving out ideas. Right now people are taking notes.
This is better than the video.
Oh, no.
All right. If you'd like to get our help personally, you can do that on the website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. Coach Victoria is also available for Zoom calls.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.